You guys getting sound now? How we looking now? Sound. Mic is on mute. Mic's not on mute. How about now? Wiring all the way in. Mic. Can you guys hear anything? You guys good now? Okay. For some reason, I have to jack this setting really high to get you guys to be able to hear it. I don't understand what the reasoning of it is, but still experimenting with a whole lot of new stuff here. So bear with me if you guys don't mind whenever as I try to walk my way through some of this. I'm trying to get the video quality and the audio quality a little bit better. As we go by, week go by, we'll get a little bit better. But anyway, I apologize for the slight delay. As I was saying, whenever I was trying to actually roll this thing in, you'll notice that typically I'll have somewhat of a slow roll, almost like you're not sure if we've started yet or not. It's mainly because it's not a good indicator. There's a little bit of a lag between what I'm doing here on the PC and where it's handed off online before it actually goes to you guys. So I don't want it to look like you're coming in and you're missing the beginning of what we're trying to talk about. Anyway, sound is okay now. Everybody can hear me clearly. From a quality standpoint, it's audible. You can understand everything. Okay, guys, we're going to get started pretty quick here. I've got not a ton to go over, but some interesting stuff that I want to talk about. Again, first we're going to go right into it. I want to talk first about this. This is a gun safe that I got right here. In fact, let me get this bug off the screen here so that you guys can see a little bit better. I'm going to put it like this for now so you can kind of look at it. All right. What this is the Sports Afield Lightning Handgun Vault. Again, it's the Sports Afield Lightning Handgun Vault. This thing right here is pretty cool. What it is, it's a company that reached out to us and they wanted us to do a review on one of their safes. And any of you that are familiar with us at Legally Armed America know that we have a somewhat popular series that we've run in the past on AR-15 shotguns and pistols called the Gun Bully segment, where we basically beat stuff up. I know it's been done. We're not original. We're not the guys that invented torture tests or anything like that. We just have a little bit different take on it, and we don't take ourselves too seriously, so we actually have fun with the segment. So what I suggested to them, I kind of felt like doing a review on a gun safe would be somewhat boring. You know what I mean? I mean, how much detail can we go into is look at the gun safe, look at the finish, look how pretty red the buttons are. I felt like that wasn't going to be anything that I really wanted to do, so I suggested to them that we do a gun bully segment, and the idea kind of evolved from there. In other words, it kind of grew legs, and it's become something that I'm actually going to have a lot of fun with. What we're going to do is we got one of their safes. Again, this is from Sports Afield, and I want to get the model right, guys. It's the Lightning Handgun Vault. This is one of their smaller versions. I believe this version, and let me check with my, it's the SARV1. This thing is going to retail for around 99 bucks. My guess is every time you see an MSRP, you probably can knock 10 to 20% off of that. So my guess is you'll probably find this thing for about $80. So again, this is you want to get the model right, the SARV1, again, the Lightning Handgun Vault. So the cool thing about it is, obviously, there's some things that you see that are pretty standard. You've got your your keys on top for your combination. Now, most of these are going to come shipped from the factory, at least in this particular model. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to be the combination. That's going to be basically a standard factory default. You also have keys that you can access it from the very front. So in the event that you forget your combination, your battery goes out or anything like that, you're going to have keys. Obviously, you don't lock these keys in here. These guys have probably dealt with a lot of folks who have done that, because throughout the instruction manual, they remind you over and over again to not lock the keys in the vault. So I feel like I need to bring that up because they do so many times. But anyway, your factory setting is going to be a 1, 2, 3, and then a 4, and then it spring loads open like that. Okay. The inside is, I will say that it's not the most glamorous thing. It's the inside of a vault safe. There's a little bit of padding in there, some foam, which actually hides the electronics on the back side from the keypad. This is the underside of the keypad, so it hides the electronics going to the hinge area and the locks and all that good stuff. So you can go in here, just so you can mute this thing. I know some of you may be thinking, well, I don't want a burglar or whomever to hear me putting the combination into my safe, so I just heard it beep. Well, there's a mute section. You can hold your mute button down for about 6 seconds, and then it mutes the combination, and then vice versa. You can hold it down again, and it will make it audible again. So anyway, pretty cool. It feels sturdy. It feels like it's well made. Cool thing is, when we start beating this thing up, when I talked to, I want to say Jacob is the guy who I spoke to at Sports Afield. When I talked to him, he made the comment to me that he wasn't sure if he wanted us to do a gun bully segment with his safe, because what if it opened? Would it show a weakness or a breach? And my response to him was, it's gonna open. That's the whole point to the gun bully segment. We don't blow it up right off the bat at the first take. We start nice and easy, and we inch our way to where this thing eventually is going to fail. So I told him it's going to fail. It's not a matter of what if it fails, it's when will it fail. Because if we have to, we'll be using tannerite, binary explosive, and we will separate this thing. At some point, this thing will open up, and we're going to be able to get into it. We're just trying to see at what level we can actually do that. Now, you will notice that I pulled out a gun that was already in here. That's pretty important, and I'll tell you why. What we are going to do to make this thing even more fun than just blowing it up or whatever, and when I say blow it up, we will get to a point where we will use binary explosives. At first, we'll try to pry it open, we'll drop it, we'll do a number of things to try to gain entry into this handgun vault. But if you notice, I have a handgun in it. That is an actual handgun. I put it in a sock for a very specific reason. In order to have a little bit more fun with this, I contacted a firearm manufacturer out there, and I contacted an ammo manufacturer out there. What we're going to do is we're going to have a contest using our gun bully segment with this safe. What we're going to do is we're going to give you guys out there a chance to guess what gun is in here. You won't win this specific gun because it may not be winnable by the time we crack this thing open at whatever point. In other words, it may sustain some damage. We realize that, but the manufacturer of the gun inside will be donating a gun to us for this segment as a drawing. So what you'll be able to do is you'll be able to go into Gun District. If any of you out there are not familiar with Gun District, it's basically the Facebook for gun people, gundistrict.com. You can go on there. It's free to go on there. Same basic concept of Facebook. You go on there and create your profile. If you're a business, you can create a page. You can create groups. It's pretty much a clone of Facebook, but it's gun friendly. We don't limit your posts. If you're a business, everybody can see your post. We're not going to throttle it back or anything like that. So it's really a cool place. I know some of the people that are on here on this live chat right now with us on the live stream are actually regulars on Gun District. And Paula, I'll mention Paula. Paula on here is a regular on Gun District. She can tell you all about it. She probably knows more about it than I do, to be honest with you. But what we're going to do is we're going to allow you guys to go to Gun District. Obviously, you have to create an account over there, but you log your guests in over there. It's not ready yet. We don't have it set up yet as the contest yet, but you're going to be able to go over there probably next week sometime and log your guests, because we don't have the first video for the gun bullies done yet. I haven't even started yet. If you notice, this safe is in pristine condition. It hasn't been dropped, beaten, pried open, or anything like that. But you're going to be able to go over there and you're going to log your entry. The cool thing is, at the end of the segment, once we finally break into this thing, and it may take, hey, maybe it's 2 segments, maybe it takes 10, maybe it takes 12, however many segments it takes for us to breach this thing and get into it, we will obviously reveal at that point what pistol is inside here. Once we reveal what that pistol is, those of you that have chosen or guessed the proper manufacturer will then be entered into the actual drawing. So if you guess a gun that it's not, then you're not going to be eligible for the drawing. So there's going to be a little bit of thought into it. And you know what? You can guess as many times as you want. So if you want to go in there and guess, 50 different manufacturers. So it's totally up to you. You can have more than one entry. There's not like a limit. Doesn't cost you anything to be in it, but anyway, it just keeps the one guy from having one guess and just kind of pulling something out of his rear as a guess. Keeps him from being the winner whenever you probably got to put a little more thought into it. And not just the gun. Not only are we not just going to give away the manufacturer of this pistol that's inside, but we also have a firearms and ammo manufacturer who's going to be donating 1,000 rounds of ammo too. That also goes to the winner. So not only will you have a chance to win a pistol, a light pistol of what's inside this safe, but 1,000 rounds of ammo to go along with it of the same caliber of the gun that you just won. So it's kind of cool, kind of a cool little thing we're doing. We try to do giveaways as often as we can. Gun District is really good about doing giveaways over there, gun giveaways. However, we haven't done any in a while. So this is our way of getting that gun giveaway thing going back again, going into the holidays. We'll be doing some more gun giveaways and things like that going into the holidays as well. But this is one that we're going to run for a little while. The thing is, I can't tell you when this contest is actually going to end because I don't know. Because it depends on how many segments we actually run with this safe before it fails and we get into it and we can reveal at that point what pistol is inside. So again, it's kind of a new spin on our gun bully segment, and it's also a new spin on our gun giveaways. Should be a lot of fun. A little bit of anticipation on you guys' part. Not knowing what's in there. I will say this, there's only there's only two people that I know of for sure, maybe three, that know what gun's in here. So it ain't getting out. It's not gonna leak. I've been pretty. There's people who are very close to me that don't know what gun is in here. So no cheating, I guess. But anyway, it's gonna be cool. I think this is it's a good looking gun safe. I think once you guys get a chance to take a look at it, and hopefully it can withstand a bunch of abuse. I've got kind of a cool little feature right here too that we're going to start doing. I apologize if the camera's bouncing because it's sitting on the edge of my table here, but this is kind of cool right here. What I've set up is you guys can actually look at some of the things on screen that we're looking at. So this is the actual gun safe. This is some of the specs right here. And let me see, I may be able to blow this thing up a little bit for you so you can see some of the specs a little bit closer, some of the features on it. Let's see. There you go. A little bit better that you can see right there. As you see, top access, there is room for only one gun in there. However, if you had cash or anything like that, you could put it in there. You can bolt this thing to a table. Or I guess a wall too if you wanted to, inside of a drawer. So there's some pretty cool stuff that you can actually do. A little bit of foam inside, as you can see, electronic lock and keypad. Again, I do like the fact that you have the backup keys. You have two of them. They're kind of like Coke machine keys. You probably want to put one in a safe deposit box and maybe one in a safe place, not in this safe again. But again, that's the event you forget your combination or you have some kind of another issue where maybe your battery goes out and you're not aware of it. So it's going to be kind of cool. So anyway, that's it. And again, as you see, just some new features that I'm trying now where I can show you guys some stuff on screen and not bore you with just having to look at me all night long. So I'm going to try to incorporate some of that into these live streams so it makes it a little more fun for you guys, to where you can actually see a little bit more instead of just listening to me read off stats and specs and stuff like that. You can actually check them out yourself. So anyway, that's the again, I don't want to get it wrong because I do appreciate these guys being a part of this giveaway and this gun bully segment. That's the Sports Afield Lightning handgun vault. Again, seems like a nice little unit right now. They do make the bigger ones. You can stack some pistols in it. I actually make full size vaults. So this is again one of the smaller ones. I see this one being, maybe a nightstand next to your bed, maybe in a drawer. If you can have a firearm at work, a desk drawer, something like that. In a garage, possibly. Again, I don't know. Looks like you probably, it looks like, based on what I see right here, there's a hole right there and a hole right there. I believe that is probably screw holes to mount this thing. Yeah, that's what it is. If you look right here, you've got screw holes in the bottom, one right there and one right there, to where you could actually, if you wanted to, you could mount this thing on a wall and it would be fine. So something to consider. There's a little bit of flexibility with it. There's also a little notch right here where you see this little hole right here. You can put a cable and it runs out this little notch right here where you could actually tie this thing down. If you didn't bolt it down, you could tie it down so that somebody couldn't easily run off with it, although I would probably recommend bolting it down to something, into a stud, 2x4 or something like that, rather than just putting the cable on it. But anyway, kind of cool. I'm looking forward to it. A nice sleek looking design. I think it's going to be interesting to mess with that. All right, let's move on. Just so you guys know, we will try to get to some questions and answers at the end of what we do. So if it seems like I'm trying to roll through this pretty quick, I am, so that we can open things up. I'm showing 10:47 on my clock right now, so I know I've rambled a little bit on the safe and the giveaway. But again, real quick, let's do not forget about this giveaway. I will put details out. You can either check our Legally Armed America Instagram. Our Twitter will have some reposts also. Our Facebook page. Here on YouTube, we'll have a video that's out on the whole giveaway. Let alone you'll be able to see the stages of the actual torture test on the Gun Bully segment. So just stay tuned on all those different social media, as well as Gun District, where the actual giveaway will be. You can make your guesses on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all that good stuff. That's fine, but it's not going to be officially logged unless you do it on Gun District. So you will have to go on the Gun District. I know a lot of you already have accounts set up there, but if you're not, you need to set one up. Again, it's free. Just go on there and do something. So anyway, ought to be kind of cool. Next up, I want to talk about some pocket pistols. I have three. I only brought two of them up here with me tonight, but I have three of them that I want to go over. The first one is it's pretty cool. I have a picture of one here. The first one is actually called the LWS 32 by C-Camp. C-Camp, there's a lot of pretty cool history with C-Camp. I would definitely like to get you guys a little bit more history on the C-Camp company, and we will do that through probably a series of videos later on. But just for now, for the sake of talking about it, it is an American company with a very rich history on double action guns, a very interesting company. So definitely want to talk a little bit more about that later on. But as you can see, this is a very, very small gun. It's pretty cool as far as concealability. As you can see, it fits in the palm of my hand, and it's extremely small. It's one of those kind of pistols that if you were wearing maybe jogging pants or gym shorts or something like that, you could probably conceal this. It does have a magazine on the bottom side of it, and I'm going to look really stupid here because I don't remember how many rounds this thing holds. It looks like it holds about 6 or 7 rounds. However, I do have a screenshot right up here, the LWS 32 6+1. So it holds 6 rounds, the magazine does. So again, cool little pistol right here. Let me give you a couple of quick little specs on this pistol. Let me hold it where you can see it. Again, as you guys know, and we've talked about it before, there are no loaded guns in this room right here. So they've all been cleared at the door, so you won't ever see a loaded gun in here unless it's on my side. I feel like I have to mention that. I've actually had people who have only watched part of our live streams, and they rag on me because I'm not telling you or I'm not showing you that the gun is clear every time. So my comment is watch the whole video and you'll see that I've made that distinction already. This thing anyway weighs 10.45 ounces. Again, I said 6.1. This particular model is a 32 caliber. They do make it in 25 and 380. I believe all models are the same size. I'm almost positive they are the same size. Length, yeah, looking at it, it looks like they're all the same size, which when you get up into the 380, to me that's kind of impressive that they are the same size. I knew that the 25 and the 32 were the same size, but again, I suppose the 380 is also. And here I'm going to try to jam this thing back in here, screw something up. But anyway, let's see, double action only. The trigger pull, with it being double action, is 11.5 pounds. Of course, the whole thing is stainless steel. It's got an MSRP of $595, but that's not what you're going to pay for this thing. You're probably going to pay about $499, something like that for it. So very cool little gun. Again, I will be doing a full review on this. I just wanted you to see it real quick. The real gun that has a lot of everybody's interest right now, and a lot of people's interest right now. Everybody is interested with this thing right now. This is a really neat little gun, and I say neat because you know, it may not be the most practical gun, it may not be the prettiest gun, but very interesting. You know, anybody that follows my videos know I like companies who kind of think outside the box and try to be somewhat innovative, and this is kind of cool. This is the, I'm going to get it right, the Trailblazer Life Guard. It's marked on the slide here. It's kind of hard to see. The Life Guard 22 LR long rifle. Let me show you real quick up close on here. Oh gosh, let me read real quick. Discreet shape, if you can't read it. Sleek, no drag design. Size of a credit card when folded. Now obviously not the thickness of a credit card unless you've got a wad of credit cards, because this thing's probably about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch thick, but it is a credit card size as far as its outside dimensions. Full size handle once you open it up. I will show you that here in a second. Completely ambidextrous, which is kind of funny because there's not really controls on either side, so I guess it is ambidextrous. Built-in safety features. There's actually some neat stuff about that too. I will show you here in a second. This thing is pretty cool. The cool thing about it is that if you take this thing out of your pocket, no one is going to glance at this and tell what it is. I was talking to a friend earlier, and there's 6 sides to something that's square like this. There's only one side that even closely resembles anything that may have something to do with a gun, where you can see the actual muzzle. Other than the muzzle, none of the sides whatsoever look like a gun. There's no indicator, no signs whatsoever of it being a gun, again, except for the muzzle. And the way this thing works is you'll see these notches on here. There's 2 little slides, if you will. One here and one right here. And I've kind of familiarized myself with this, so I will tell you, I wasn't quite as smooth with this thing as whenever I first got it. But let me get over here. I still want to be able to look at your comments if I can, so give me 1 second to get back over here. This is made by Trailblazer. Trailblazer Firearms is the name of the company. You pull this little notch right here down, and then it opens up into your actual handgun. As you see, they say it's a full-size pistol. Remember, this is the C camp that we just had. So as you can see, it's actually got a little bit more of a grip. See how my fingers, my pinky and my ring finger don't necessarily go onto the grip of the C camp, whereas this one, my whole hand goes onto the grip. So as awkward as the shape of it is, it feels fine in your hand. It really does. I mean, it honestly feels okay. You'll also notice, just like the C camp doesn't have any aimable sights, these are self-defense guns, okay? There are no aimable sights on this thing. If you notice, it's just a groove running right straight down the middle. You know, we're talking about a close-range self-defense gun right here. If you're shooting at somebody 50 yards away with this, number 1, you're crazy. Number 2, you're not threatened. And then number 3, you better have a good attorney. So, I mean, you don't need aimable sights on here. The cool thing about it is once you pop it open, I say cool, some states it's not legal. I want to say maybe Massachusetts, you have to have a trigger guard. I'm pretty sure in Massachusetts you have to have a trigger guard. So this is going to be illegal in Massachusetts. I like it because it's easy, fast, easy to get to, because again, this is a self-defense pistol. This is not something I'm going to be target shooting with. This is going to be kind of a last resort pistol. So anyway, you crack this thing open. Let's say I'm ready to use it. You crack it open, and then I found that immediately the easiest way to do it is just to grip it really well with your right hand and just grab your left hand. This is basically the way to charge it. This is kind of like the charging of the slide right here. It's basically you're setting the hammer back. So you pull it straight back, and then it's cocked. It's ready to go. Now, let me back up a second. Sometimes I'm known to get ahead of myself. This right here is basically your release to release the top of the slide, and I call it the slide. It's really the barrel. You can release it, and that's what allows you to now load it. This is a Mach 22, slides right out. As you can see, it takes a 22 long rifle. You load one in there. Obviously, it's a single shot. Load one in. Now, you do have to still hold this down, the slide that you did, the little slider to release the barrel up. You do have to pull it back again for it to snap back in place. In other words, you can't just force this down. These things are not grooved to where they have a ramp, a landing ramp where it will slide into place and then lock. It's actually square cut. So once it gets to a point where it's engaging the slide, it stops. It will not slide into place. My guess is you could probably file that down and make it slide into place, but there's a reason why they did it like that. I wouldn't do it. It's just a matter of pulling it back. Again, we're not going to be speed loading this thing if we're threatened. The only reason why I bring that up is because it is a single shot, and you do have an area right here, in, as you see, in the handle that's going to allow you to store, I believe it's 4 more. I think you can put 4 more 22 long rifle in here. I mean, again, this is kind of a backup gun type thing or a last resort, so you're probably not going to be in a really stressful, high stress firefight with this thing. So I don't see any fast reloads, but again, if in the event you want to make a fast reload, it seemed like if this thing were trimmed down to where you could just slam it shut and then fire, or cock it and then fire. But I mean, you do still have to cock it at this point. So I found that cocking it this way is not that easy, but coming across here is very easy. The only thing I'll kind of warn you about, if you do it this way, my hands are not tiny, they're not the biggest hands in the world, but if I hold it like this, as you see, my hand, if I let it come down, would be right in front of the muzzle, and that's always something to worry about. But once you cock it, you are in front of, or behind the muzzle rather, so you are safe as long as you remove your hand from that direction and don't bring it back in front of it and muzzle flash yourself. You can decock it just like an old school revolver or something like that. You want to hold the hammer and then gently pull the trigger, and then it's going to let it down. If you notice, when you do decock it, the trigger stays in a rearward position. Let me show you something that's kind of interesting. This trigger will basically, it has 3 positions that it will get into. This position right here, if you can see, and I'm going to try to get the light to help us out here. If you can see right there, the trigger, let me get over here. It hits this hole right here. And this hole is made specifically, it's positioned specifically, and it's made specifically big enough or small enough to where the trigger can't go in and in any kind of way. This is not ready to be fired, so it's not ready to drop this thing in. I don't know how to better explain that. What you got to do is you got to open it back up and you gently pull the slide back just a hair, and that trigger falls where it needs to be. Now that trigger has an opportunity to go straight into that hole, and it can close. With that being also said, if you have this thing cocked, it also will not fall into place. The trigger now is too far forward, so now it still hits at the back of the hole. Again, I don't know if you guys can see that. I apologize, the lighting's not the best or anything like that, but nevertheless, the trigger is hitting at the back side of the hole instead of the front. So if you notice, whenever I decock this thing, you got to decock it, and then it's going to go back into place like that. So there's a number of ways that you can actually manipulate this thing. It's kind of interesting, but the bottom line is, whenever you do try to work it, it's going to have to be in this open position excuse me, and you have to pull your hammer back. That's the only way it's going to fire. So I think it's a safe gun. I will say this, knowing it's just a backup gun, you are going to have, this is probably one of those kind of things where if you're being attacked, you don't draw this thing, because you got a little bit of time involved. I mean, you're going to have to do this. I mean, I know that's not a lot of action that I just performed right there, but you are going to have to do that. If you're grabbing into your pocket, you also have to hold this thing a certain way. I would say this, I would suggest to the company that they maybe put like maybe a groove running along here, some finger grooves, to where you could feel, if you have it in your pocket, which way you're holding it. It's a little bit difficult here. I know that I could, spin this thing around this way or that way. The easiest thing to indicate if it were in my pocket is to familiarize myself with where the actual hammer is, this part right here. That's the only real distinct thing, because if you notice, it's split right down the middle, and you have these 2 little notches right here, these 2 little levers or slides or whatever you want to call them. You could actually mistake one for the other depending on what side you're holding it. So if this thing's in your pocket, the only real way to tell how you're holding it as far as the orientation of it is to feel where the hammer is. So if I've got it in my pocket and I feel like this, okay, I know where it is, and I know when I draw it and pull it out that this is what I'm going to be doing. I get that. And you see, it only takes me a couple of seconds to do that. So again, we're not talking about getting in a firefight with this. This is to get me to my next gun or a last resort type thing. So, I do like that. I could see this thing being one of those kind of guns that, again, like I said earlier with the Sea Camp, if you've got shorts on or you've got gym pants or something like that, this thing right here would be ideal to put in, because mainly if you put this in, I know I have something I can show you guys. If you put this Sea Camp, say, in jogging pants, and it's hanging out of your jogging pants through the pocket or something, you can kind of tell it's a gun. You can just tell. Whereas this life card looks like a wallet. You know what I mean? No one's going to freak out. No one's going to have a conniption fit or anything like that. So this thing, to me, is going to be easier if you're running down to the store in the morning to get some milk, coffee, donuts, or whatever. Just nice to have. You still want to be armed. It's not so heavy that it's going to drag your shorts off of you or something like that. But it's a really, really neat little gun. I think it's cool. The price, it's a little high. It's what did I say it was, the MSRP on this thing? And I know you guys probably have already asked, but I see it here as $399 MSRP. So I guess that's not too bad. It's a well-made gun. Let's talk about some of the features of it. It's got which this impressed me a little bit. The materials: 4140 pre-hardened steel barrel, bolt, and trigger. That's pretty solid. I mean, the barrel, bolt, and trigger all being steel. 4140 steel is not terrible steel. That's actually going to be AR-15 type steel in some areas. Some barrels on an AR-15 are made with that. 4140 steel. Aluminum frame and handle, 100% machine billet. That's pretty interesting also. The finish is corrosion resistant. Let me try to show you guys another picture of it while I'm sitting here spouting off all these. Will not fire when closed. I think that's a nice safety feature because you don't have to worry about it going off in your pocket. Caliber, it comes in 22 long rifle now. My guess is with the popularity of what I've seen of this thing, the interest in it anyway, popularity is only as good as how good the gun is once it gets out there. So it's popular now because not a lot of people have it, and because it's different and it looks different. Let's see how popular it stays once people actually get it and start shooting it and see if it malfunctions or if it works. That'll determine whether or not it stays popular. Obviously it's single action. The length of it when closed is 3.375 inches. The height is 2.125 inches. Again, this is a credit card dimension. The thickness is ½ inch. I said earlier, looked like 1/4 inch or 3/8. It says ½ inch. I don't think it's a full ½ inch. It looks like it's a little bit smaller than that. I'm still going to go with my 3/8. I think it's probably about 3/8 of an inch thick. Weighs 7 ounces. So, nevertheless, it's somewhat of an interesting little pistol here. I think it's something that's going to blow up. I do believe it. I say blow up. I don't mean blow up. Boom! It's going to blow up in sales. This is the kind of stuff that is going to, I don't want to say save the gun industry, because the gun industry, it doesn't need saving. It's not dead. But the gun industry right now, because Trump is in office and there's no real threat of your Second Amendment rights, gun sales are not what they normally are. At least not for the last 8 years with Barack Obama in office. So there's no real threat of the Second Amendment, which means nobody is panic buying, which means things are slow moving off the shelf. AR-15s are moving really slow right now. Ammo sales are a little bit down. And talking to the ammo manufacturers out there, a lot of these people back right whenever the election was happening in November bought 6 months worth of ammo. Well, there were no panic buys because they all thought Hillary was going to win. There were no panic buys after that, so they're still working off of that 6 months worth of backlog of ammo that they bought at the time. So at some point, ammo will catch back up, because I go to the ranges and I see just as many people at the range now that I did before the election. So I don't think people have stopped shooting. They're just not hoarding or buying as much as they would have had Hillary won the election. Guns, on the other hand, people aren't buying as many guns. I think people are going to have to get creative like this. And I don't mean to this extreme. Not everybody has to make one of these. But anyway, thinking outside the box and kind of extending their their repertoire a little bit, their portfolio. I will say this, one gun manufacturer, Rock Island Armory, I was reading the other day, they're going to be coming out with a line of shotguns, and I think that's kind of interesting. They're expanding their portfolio a little bit, so that's going to be kind of cool to see them. You know, that's going to probably be more one of the, they're known for their 1911s being entry level, but they also have very nice, beyond entry level 1911s, and I suspect they're going to do the same thing with their shotguns and have that kind of quality. But nevertheless, something like this is kind of cool. We are going to do a full review on this thing, so I encourage you guys to stay tuned, watch our videos, look for updates and things like that. Follow us on our social medias, different things that whatever you like watching us on, Gun District, YouTube, or whichever. And definitely check it all out, and we'll be definitely putting this video out very, very soon. I'm probably going to try to film this next week because this is kind of a cool little thing here. Let's see, what else did I want to talk about? You know what I'd like to do now? I know we've got some time left. I'm looking at our time. So I got about 20 minutes. Let me open it up to the floor if you guys don't mind. I know you've probably asked a lot of questions. So if you don't mind, ask some more of them, because I have not been logging those questions or looking at them. So if you guys have anything else, I do want to encourage you guys that if you ever have anything you'd like for us to go over, definitely check us out. Definitely shoot us an email, paul@LegallyArmedAmerica.com. You guys were really good last week or the week before, I think, of sending all of our topics for the show. Yeah, it was last Saturday. We weren't going to have a show last Friday night, and we didn't have one last Friday. I decided to have one on Saturday, and you guys actually provided the content, subject matter. So that was pretty cool. So if you guys ever have anything you want to talk about, whether it be a topic out there, shoot me an email. You can do it. You can get on YouTube and do it on the live stream videos. Put it in the comment section. I'm pretty good about going through those and looking at them. If you do that, I'll be happy to roll through that and definitely give you guys if I catch the name too, who it is, I'll give you a shout out. Blazing 1212, by the way, just picked up a Springfield XDM compact bitone for $299. Wow, from Palmetto State. That is a sick deal. I have never seen that pistol for less than $600. To get anything right now that's not and I'm not picking on them, but to get anything that's not a high point for less than $300, that's a legitimate gun, is actually a heck of a steal regardless of the brand. That's really good. Palmetto State. So if you guys are looking for a good deal, a $299 Springfield XDM bitone, so go to Palmetto State and check that out. That's pretty awesome. Let's see. Paul, have you shot the Rock Island M200 revolver? I have not. I've not shot that. I may have at one of the SHOT Shows if they've had it out there. I'm not anti-revolver, but I don't shoot a ton of revolvers. I just don't. Mainly because I don't carry a revolver, and I'm just prone to practicing more with the things that I definitely, am going to shoot. Let's see. Paula asked, I know you don't want to talk about Gun District, but if you send me an email, I sent you one this month. If it's the one about the improvements on Gun District and some of the bugs that they have right now, I know Chad has seen that, and Chad is tending to all of that. For those of you who don't matter or don't know, I think we just made our 4th or 5th upgrade on Gun District. And when you do an upgrade like that, it's pretty substantial. And because it's not somebody else doing it, we have a lot of work to do. So you usually reveal a ton of bugs when you do that. So when you try to add an improvement, usually it affects something else down the road, and you got posting issues. Sometimes I think one of the things that I was doing is I would like somebody's post, and then later on I would get a notification saying somebody liked my post. Once I liked it, it kind of made it my post, and little things like that. We're all trying to change it, but it's just growing pains. Again, we're a small company, and we do own and run and maintain and manage Gun District, so we don't have the funds that billionaire Mark Zuckerberg has, and which is kind of ironic because Mark Zuckerberg is the reason why we have Gun District. If you guys remember a few years back, he was the reason why so many people left Facebook or had problems with Facebook. They would, I think you can only naturally see, organically see about 3% of your followers. I know on Facebook we don't have the biggest following because we don't dedicate a lot of our time and efforts to Facebook, but we've got, I think, 20-something thousand followers on Facebook. So that means only a very small percentage of those, 6,000 of them, are going to see our posts on a regular basis. Not 6,000, less than that. So we've got so few people that are going to see our posts that you have to. That's their way of kind of holding you ransom and making you pay money for them for you to be able to show people who have already decided to like your page. They've already elected to like you, and now you're sitting here having to pay money to have your, quote, fans, and I don't like referring to them as that, but that's kind of what, that's how they look at them. But now you have to pay money to have your followers see your post, which is just ludicrous if you ask me. And gun companies, then when gun companies would try to go out there and pay money, then Facebook would deny their money because it was gun related. So we ended up creating Gun District, and from that it's grown quite a bit. There's close to 100,000 people on there right now, and we like it. We like it a lot. It's pretty cool. Let's see. You've only heard good things about the carbine. Talking about the High Point carbine. I'm not a High Point fan at all, but the one thing I have heard good things about is their carbine. Their handguns are so blocky. The biggest knock I've seen, and I have a High Point. I mean, obviously, being in the gun business, you get your hands on all kinds of different guns, and I have a 45 caliber High Point, and I understand that they're making it's only $100 and something gun. What do they cost? $120. But the way the magazine interacts with the actual pistol, it's just a horrible fit. And I've seen, not mine, I can't say that mine's done this, but I've seen magazines fall out of High Points as they're being shot. Not the most comforting thing that could happen in the event you have a self-defense gun. I look at every single pistol that I have, every gun that I have, everything I have, to me, is a self-defense gun. I'm not going to war. Anytime I have to pull the trigger on anything on one of these walls in here, or anything that I have on my side, it's going to be for self-defense purposes. So there's nothing that I'm ever going to own or buy, purchase, borrow, trade, anything that I'm ever going to have that if it has any ounce that it's unreliable, unless I'm doing it just because I need to do a review on it, I'm not spending my money on it. Because, again, everything in here, regardless of its design, is considered by me to be self-defense. So if I have to run and grab that to protect myself or my family, I don't need a magazine falling out of it. That's the last thing that I want. That's where my apprehension with carrying a High Point is. Other than the fact that they're very, very large, they're bulky. It's not one I feel like I could comfortably conceal. With that being said, their carbines, I've heard some very good things about them. I've heard they're reliable. I've heard they're accurate. I don't have one. I've never shot one. But again, I'm not one to try to bring down a company just because they're a whipping boy and people like to pick on them. But again, I can't knock that. I've heard good things about their carbines for sure. Let's see. I'm looking at you guys' posts in here. How about the Tavor X95 Bullpup? I have never shot the X95, but I do have the older Tavor. This is the original Tavor. And this one, oddly enough, they decided last month or last week that they're not going to make this particular model anymore. The X95 has some improvements on it. The trigger for sure, because this thing has, as good as this gun is, I think it's a great rifle. It's definitely got a very spongy trigger. The trigger never has been great. They've never bragged about this trigger being great. It's never been one that anyone has ever said, wow, have you shot a Tavor? Their triggers are awesome. But the X95 is definitely an improved trigger. I love this rifle. This is a great rifle. I actually outfitted it with a Mepro sight to keep it just like the Israelis designed this thing. It was designed for this. I mean, for close quarters, this is an amazing, amazing rifle. It does take your standard magazines, AR-15 magazines. This is 5.56, by the way, for those of you that don't know. Really good rifle. This is a very reliable rifle. We did a review on this thing 4 or 5 years ago. And again, other than the trigger, it's a great gun. It's the close quarterness of it, from the muzzle to the back of the stock. It's so small. I mean, if you had to clear a house with it, I could see this. If I was ever going to use a 5.56, which I don't, but if I was going to use one for a self-defense rifle in my home, this would be it, because I could maneuver through my hallways and through doors with this thing, which obviously is the benefit of it. So yes, the X95, I have shot one, I just don't own one. I'm probably not going to get one. I know that, I think Timney, either Timney or Geisley makes an aftermarket trigger for this model, and I haven't gotten it yet, but I'm going to, so I'll just outfit this one. If something happens where IWI wants, it's made by IWI, if IWI wants us to do a review on one and they send me one, yeah, I'll take it, but I probably won't spend money on one because I like this one. I mean, again, if just with a slight trigger upgrade, I'll definitely go to it. Let's see, look back at you guys. I don't know if Blazing is asking me this, but the question is, what do you think of 40 for self-defense? I like 9mm, but I never considered how easy it is to convert a 40 cal 357 SIG with a simple barrel change, so I feel like it's two guns in one. Yeah, I suppose. I don't have anything against the 357 SIG caliber. I'm just not a fan of it. It's not something that I've ever been a huge fan of. I know that when you ask my question about the 40 for self-defense, I think the type of gun that you're using for self-defense is more, and this is just my opinion, I'm not a big fan of polymer guns in 40 caliber, and the reason why is because that the 40 has such an odd recoil. The 9mm and even a 45 caliber, they have manageable recoil. The 9 is it's a slight recoil. With a 45, even though it's a more powerful recoil, it's a softer pop. It's more of a, it's not violent. It doesn't torque your gun. If you got your 40 in the middle, where it's a hot loaded round, I know the projectile's not as big as the 45, so you technically don't have as hard of a recoil, but it's not as, well, it's really hard for me to explain this, but it's not a soft, puffy recoil like the 45. To me, the 45 is a very easy to control recoil. It's predictable. It comes, straight back and straight up, but with a soft but hard effort, it goes back. With that 40 caliber, it has a violent torque to it. Your gun, we've got a Glock Gen 5 right here. When you've got your 40 caliber, that gun, especially if it's polymer, it's torquing up and back like that, up and back. So when you shoot a 45, your 45 has got a nice soft pop, and it goes up and down. So you're really only having to worry about your muscle memory to get back down on target, and usually you can go straight back down. Where a 40, when it torques, you're going back down and side to side trying to get this thing back in place. I know that sounds like I'm overcomplicating it, but if you take them side by side and shoot a 45 and a 40, I'm not even talking about the 9, because the 9 is simple. The 9 is so easy to get back on target. For anybody that's not familiar with it, I mean, 9s, if your issue is getting back on target fast, go with a 9. I am a 45 caliber fan. I love 45, but if you're wanting mag capacity and manageable recoil, go with the 9. But if you take, I've actually done this. I've shot one of my 45 caliber Glocks and a 40 caliber Glock side by side, because that's the only makes and guns that I have. Of course, I do have some 1911s that are 9 and 45, or 40 and 45. But anyway, I did this with the Glock, and I shot it. And actually, the way this happened, guys, is I was taking, a friend of mine was wanting to get his first handgun, and I took a whole bunch of my handguns down to the gun range, probably 15 different handguns, and I just happened to grab a 40 and a 45 in Glock because I wanted him to see the difference in the calibers and make up his own mind. I hadn't really come to the conclusion yet of how violent that 40 caliber recoil was, because I had never shot a 40 caliber side by side with another gun. I just shot them independently, and I really hadn't noticed the recoil, how it was. Well, when he shot it, he was like, man, the 45 seems like it's easier to shoot than the 40. And I was like, nah. In my head, I'm immediately thinking, no, it's not. 45 caliber has more of a recoil, which technically it does. Well, he swore by that. So I shot it, and I shot the 40 first and then the 45, and it is noticeable. If you ever have the chance to shoot two of the exact same models, one in 40 and one in 45, it's very easy to see that the 45 is way more manageable than the 40 is. The 40 has a very unusual torque to it. Now, I said at the beginning of this conversation that it depends on the type of gun. When I shoot competition USPSA, I actually shoot 40 caliber, but I'm shooting, let's see, more of a gun like this. This isn't one of my competition guns. This is actually a Rock Island Armory competition gun. But usually I'm shooting a full-sized, full dust cover, heavy front end. Like I said, full slide, full everything. Magwell, double stack. A big, heavy gun because it's easy to control. It's easy to control. So when I'm having that torque that would have happened to a polymer gun like this, I'm not going to get that torque. I'm not going to get that really crazy, unusual torque in that 40 caliber in this 1911 or 2011, if you want to call it that I got in this kind of torquey polymer gun here. The polymer guns, the smaller guns, the lighter guns, are more susceptible to that oddball torquing of the 40 caliber. So that's why, again, I love the 40 in a competition gun simply because I get more speed. You're going to get power factor. If you know anything about USPSA, you know what I'm talking about. You hit your power factor with no more of a problem. So it's definitely something that I think 40 is a great gun for self-defense. If you can manage that odd recoil and you're comfortable with it in a polymer gun, then don't hesitate. I'm not telling you that it's a bad round. I know that whenever I carry a polymer gun, I carry a 9mm. Get one or two more rounds in there versus that 40, but also again I feel like it's more manageable. So it's kind of my take on that. See guys, if you ask a question, I'm usually not quick with my answers. I can go around in circles with my answers sometimes. Let's see, I've never owned a 40, but I just bought that XDM, so it got me thinking. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for a 2-in-1 type conversion, it's probably not a bad idea. Just gives you more flexibility. If you look down the road and you're looking at kind of a stuff hitting the fan kind of thing, and you want to have the luxury of having different forms of ammo in the event that you need to scrounge and try to find some, it's probably not a bad idea. 40 is more powerful round than 45 in terms of foot-pounds. That's correct. There's a lot of unusual ballistic characteristics if you really start breaking down a lot of these rounds, and they can get kind of confusing because so many people have their own opinion about what's what, and a lot of times, your ballistics do this. You've got one that's more powerful, but it may have more torque, and so that if you just look at a chart and try to compare them, they don't go up a chart like this where one is lower and one is higher and they stay like that. Sometimes they cross each other on that graph, just in terms of muzzle energy, muzzle velocity, terminal velocity, things like that. And I don't pretend to be an expert in that. That's over my pay grade. So let's see, guys. Americans and their guns. Well, we must have a newcomer here. Canada. Wow. I actually have, I could very easily say Canada and their anti-gun thoughts. I have a very good friend in the Toronto area that he is, I'm not going to say his name. I'll give you his last name. Odell is his last name. And he is one of the most popular gun owners in Canada. This guy's got his own museum. Because the laws are so screwed up for guns in Canada and ammo and all that good stuff, this guy has created, it's odd because if you have a museum, in many cases you can own a lot of these firearms that you could not own as a regular person. So this man has created his own museum, his own gun museum. And the cool thing about it is, indirectly, people send him guns. People that know they can't have them. Let's say somebody dies and the person that is getting or is inheriting those guns can't legally own them because they live in Canada. This guy Odell gets these guns. A lot of families will send them to him for free sometimes. Sometimes they'll sell them to him. But in essence, they've allowed him to create a really cool, interesting museum up there. And from what I understand, it's one of the most awesome museums up there. I'm talking about full-blown machine guns, Gatling guns, just a plethora of really unusual stuff. You probably could Google him and just Google Odell, O-D-E-L-L. That's his last name, and you could probably see some of the pretty cool stuff that he's got. Very, very cool stuff. This guy's also a huge pro-gun advocate up there. Really, he loves our Second Amendment. He loves our gun rights here in the States. And he's just a very, very, very good guy, and very knowledgeable of the laws in Canada, gun laws. He knows all of our laws down here too. He actually he's I guess an importer, if you will, from all different countries. So yeah, Canada's interesting. We got some good buddies up there. We've been buddies with those guys for a long time. Let's see. You guys have the goofiest prime minister too, by the way. Oh my gosh. I remember I was at a gun show. I don't remember which one it was. I might have been in New Orleans a couple years ago, whenever Trudeau got elected. And it was one of those things where it's like everybody went out and got drunk and as a joke voted for Trudeau, and they woke up the next morning, they were like, holy crap, this guy won. Because no one could believe he won. He was such a joke. And now he's y'all's prime minister, so sorry for that. We definitely got you guys beat on that. Let's see, Mike says, I'm in the market for a beginner bench rifle, and local rural king is selling a Remington 783 308 for less than $300. What are your thoughts on it compared to Savage, Ruger, Mossberg? Man, now Savage has some pretty low-priced guns out there right now for a bench rifle. But man, if you can get your hands on a Remington 783, anytime you can buy a 308 for under $300, Ruger has I want to say it's around that same price. You might want to check with Ruger too. I'm not saying Ruger's better, but Ruger's barrels are pretty good. Ruger they make their own barrels. They make some great barrels. You might check into that. Again, I'm not saying the Remington 783 is not worth $300. Definitely. That's probably, you know what, maybe buy two guns. But I was at a gun shop yesterday and I saw one of the Ruger 308s, and I was blown away at the price on it and the quality of it. So you maybe check on that too, because I didn't realize that they were selling them for that cheap. So that's maybe something worth checking into. But boy, I don't think you can go wrong with a Remington 783 for $300. Just trying to read you guys. Okay, well, with that being said, we are at 11:29. So I think we're going to wrap it up here in a second. We've been rolling for 59 minutes and 48 seconds. I would like to encourage you guys to, again, please email me what you guys want as far as anything that you have that you want us to talk about. I see where Blazing says you watched our Springfield SOCOM 16 video the other day. I think it may have cost me $1,200. Dude, if you can get that thing for $1,200, scoop it up. But it's a great gun. I will tell you, the Springfield Scout, I like the SOCOM better because it's shorter, more maneuverable, but the Scout is way more accurate in terms of what Springfield has told me. I haven't shot it, but I hear that it's way more accurate than the SOCOM, so maybe consider that also. Think of the same price. Again, I'd like to encourage everybody to please send me any suggestions that you have. You can email me at paul@LegallyArmedAmerica.com. You can comment in any of the sections on any of the live chats, any of our videos. If you leave a comment or anything like that, we're very good at responding to you all. But if you do any of that, I'm happy to definitely get with you guys and try to include anything that you have that you want us to talk about on the show. We do try to do this every Friday night, 10:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. As you can see, I'm trying to do some of the new things out here that are going to improve on the quality. You see I got the little bug down at the bottom where you can get our website. I'm going to try to put more of the on-screen graphics and things like that to where you can see, so you don't get bored listening to me and watching me or anything of that nature. I'm trying to make it more, if you guys are going to do us the honor of staying up on a Friday night like this, the least that we can do is try to improve the quality of what we're doing here for 1 hour. Again, I always appreciate hanging out with you guys. It's a lot of fun for me. I look forward to Friday nights. I look forward to trying to interact with you guys as best I can. I'm not always good about taking your questions on the front end of the show, but I always try to hang out towards the end of the show as best I can, and hopefully get to answer some of you guys' questions. Guys, you guys have a really good weekend. I appreciate everything. I do always appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and we will see you back here next weekend, next Friday night, 10:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And again, it's very good to hang out with all of you guys. We'll talk to you next.